Hello there. Welcome in to a Thursday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which you can find wherever fine digital streaming apps are given away because they are free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health. You can also watch the show anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR and at Extra Sports 1300. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I would love to get your thoughts. 719-247-1313 is the number you could call or text. Producer Ray Dominguez standing by, eagerly awaiting your correspondence. I do have 3 guests today. Guest heavy. And I'm excited for all 3 of them. Thomas Harding, Rockies beat writer for MLB.com, joins me. The home opener at 20th and Blake is tomorrow. What has he learned about this Rockies team, albeit through 2 series on the road? Christian Herrera, Switchbacks goalkeeper, also a guest of mine later this hour. He came up huge as the Switchbacks advanced to the 3rd round of the U.S. Open Cup and will now host MLS club Sporting Kansas City. So talk to Chris about that, as well as the USL Championship season, which resumes Saturday at home against Lexington SC. And then the new head coach of the Air Force men's basketball team, Joe Crispin, will drop by as well. But let us start with, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I feel compelled. You have been misled. You have been hoodwinked by fake news. And I'm not sitting here from a spot of superiority, because I also thought the Avalanche were playing last night. I could have sworn the Avalanche were in action last night. I thought Extra Sports 1300 carried the game. I was wrong. So I'm just telling you the realization that I had. I'm just helping you to realize the same thing. The Colorado Avalanche did not play a game last night. The Colorado Avalanche, you are being told, lost 8-6 to the worst team in the NHL, the Vancouver Canucks. That is a bold-faced lie. The Avalanche were not on the ice last night. It was the Quebec Nordiques. Because the Colorado Avalanche would never stoop to that level to lose to a team as lowly as the Vancouver Canucks. But the Quebec Nordiques, that's actually a very, that's a result that I think you can understand, because Vancouver, they get points out of 35% of their games. The Quebec Nordiques, they're 2-4 on the year. They get points in a third of their games. The Quebec Nordiques are actually the worst team in the NHL, not Vancouver. So as disappointing as the effort might be from the Quebec Nordiques, they lost to a better team. Now, if it were the Avalanche who were playing the Vancouver Canucks last night, then it would be a very bad loss. Then questions posed to Jared Bednar after the game about how proud he was of the effort in the third period to rally and tie that game would not be as ridiculous. If we're talking about the Nordiques here, if the Avalanche, those questions are silly. The Avalanche are the top team in all the land. They got behind and gave up that many goals to the worst team in the league. And Jared Bednar is being asked if he's supposed to be proud of the way his team battled back. So those questions only make sense if you're talking about the Quebec Nordiques, because it would be completely unacceptable for the Avalanche to ever find themselves in the position the Nordiques did last night. Here is Jared Bednar's response to the questions about, are you proud of your team and the way they battled against the worst team in the NHL, not named the Quebec Nordiques?
I like the way we played in the third. But the reality of it is if you want to win in this league, you have to play that way for 60 minutes. And we weren't even close. Wasn't a great first, and got worse in the second. And then, yeah, like if you want to hand out like badges for like good effort and stuff like that, like I think we're beyond that. Like this time of year, like effort for 20 minutes and doing the right things for 20 minutes isn't good enough.
And to me, that's a little harsh talking about the Quebec Nordiques. It really is, because the Quebec Nordiques, again, they have only won a third of their games. The Quebec Nordiques have terrible goaltending. They have had to pull their goalie in 3 of their games this year. So I think, personally, Jared Bednar is being a little bit too harsh on the Quebec Nordiques. Now, if the Avalanche were playing last night, then I think that is exactly the way he should answer those kind of questions, because it is absolutely insane to give a team any level of credit for fighting back from 3 goals down against a team that they have no business trailing by more than a goal at any point in the game. If this is what it takes to get rid of those horrendously ugly sweaters, then it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. If the Nordique sweater curse, and what this is, if you don't believe in curses, or if you believe in other curses and are wondering, is this a curse for me? Let me compare it to this. And I want to talk specifically to the women out there. Do you put on a ring of a failed marriage? Of course you don't. You don't want that. Your sister gets divorced and you're like, hey, we're kind of looking for an engagement ring. Mind if I borrow yours? You don't do that. So why, if you're a team, would you want to proudly don the uniform of a failed franchise? That's what the Quebec Nordiques are. They're a failed franchise that had to move. And the minute they moved, the Nordiques were dead. And the Avalanche were born. Co-opting the history of that great city in Canada and that franchise, I've always been against it. It makes no sense to me. Nathan McKinnon just passed Peter Goulet on the all-time scoring list. Who's Peter Goulet? Peter Goulet never played for the Avalanche. Paul Stastny's dad never played for the Avalanche. It is one of my biggest pet peeves when, and it's not just the Avs, when any team, to make a few extra bucks, dons the garb of the team that resided in this city that they were plucked from. And soon we'll get the NBA back in Seattle, and they will proudly be the Seattle Supersonics, and they will, have Sean Kemp and Gary Payton and maybe Detlef Schrempf's jersey hanging from the rafters. And then all those records, everything that George Karl did for that franchise will be owned by that franchise, and the Oklahoma City Thunder will have their own history and never the two shall meet. In fact, I think OKC has actually done it a little bit better than most franchises. But if this is what it takes, a curse. Ooh, curse. If that's what it takes to get the Avalanche to be done with all this, then it's a small sacrifice for the greater good. But the fact of the matter, curse or no curse, the Avalanche, Nordiques, whatever you want to call them, were objectively terrible last night. And I'm ready to call it. Jared Bednar doesn't want to call it. I understand why. You go with Scott Wedgwood game one. I held on for as long as I can. Scott Wedgwood's got to be the guy in goal and see where it gets you. Again, like the question will answer itself because I would expect to see both Blackwood and Wedgwood, or whoever starts game one in that first round series will play so well that Jared Bednar will be like, yeah, no, I'm going to start him again. And he keeps playing so well. It will answer itself. But right now, the best option for the Colorado Avalanche is Scott Wedgwood in goal. Mackenzie Blackwood was not good last night and deserved to be pulled from the game. Now, goalie is like quarterback. Get a little too much credit, get a little too much blame. The guys in front of Mackenzie Blackwood were equally bad. He was bad, and you can pull him. You can't pull the guys playing in front of him, but you have to mention how bad they were. And they were really bad. And you always wonder, and we'll talk about the Nuggets coming up in a little bit, how much stock do you put into these late seasons? There's really no correlation, maybe except that famous Rockies team that was able to, do a lot of winning at the very end of the season and carry it through the playoffs. They're a unique, that team is unique in a lot of different ways. That's one of the main reasons, because really there hasn't been a strong correlation between any kind of form at the end of the season and the playoffs. I think the way you have to judge a team is just take the entire body of work and say, how do I feel about this team? And when you take the entire body of work that the Colorado Avalanche have put forth this season, you feel very good about them. And you shouldn't be swayed because of one game when they were wearing those hideous sweaters. This is still the team to beat. And they have played much better hockey. They just smoked Calgary. But I think the takeaway you have is just that is a really bad look. That was a really bad performance. Like, you can lose games down the stretch. Just don't look like that. Or else you'll invite some people going, what is going on here? I think that if I want to be a bit of an optimist here, let me spin it this way. Last time the Avs looked close to that bad, their very next game, they beat the Flames 9-2. Who's on the Avs schedule next? Might actually be a good thing in the end, because the Avalanche will be primed and ready to get that game completely out of their minds against the Dallas Stars on Saturday. But opportunity lost. They had a chance to maybe clinch on Saturday if they would have taken care of business last night. They do not. So that is not on the table for Saturday. But given how the Avs responded the last time we kind of had a similar conversation, maybe that bodes very well against the Dallas Stars. 719-24-7, 1313. Your thoughts on all things Avs and Nordiques. Our question of the day: do you like the Nordiques gear? And going beyond that, do you like the Avs co-opting is the history of the Nordiques theirs? I guess that would be the better way to put it. Let's have that conversation as well. 719-24-7. 1313. One franchise that does not have a problem with this, Colorado Rockies. They've been the Rockies this whole time. Thomas Harding of MLB.com. What have we learned through the first couple series of the year and what to expect this weekend for the first home series of the year? Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Certainly the excitement around Rockies opening day, which is, I don't know how it's ever not high, but given what the Rockies were able to do against the reigning American League champions, it may be a little bit higher than it normally would be, as the Rockies do open up the home portion of their 2026 schedule against the Philadelphia Phillies. Not going to get any easier for Warren Schaefer and the boys. Joining me now to discuss is the man that covers the team for MLB.com, and he is terrific at what he does, and he takes time out of his afternoon to join me, and I thank him for that. Thomas Harding, how are you, my friend?
I feel good. I feel clean. I've got what it takes to win a championship. I guess we'll see what the Rockies have.
There you go. You're championship ready.
That's right.
What is your hottest take about? And you're a very measured guy. You just tell the facts. But what is if you'll indulge me, the hottest take that you can have about this Rockies team through the first 6 games?
Well, I'll tell you what. Through the first 6 games, this is going to be an aggressive offensive team. Now, if you look at even yesterday's game when they won in extra innings, they struck out like 16 times. So they're going to struggle to get hits on the road. So they have to find ways to score runs. I like the fact that they're not playing station-to-station baseball. I do want to see when this team rounds into this season, will there be those explosions of power at home to where maybe even if they're playing against some of the best pitching, they can win some games because of taking advantage of Coors Field.
Mm-hmm. How pleased is Warren Schaefer and the group about what they've been able to do? I mean, obviously the Miami series wasn't the result that they wanted, but overall, how is the team feeling about their start?
Well, to begin with, Miami, and I think MLB Network and Mark DeRosa on that network said Miami's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. That pitching is awesome. So when you go there to start a season, you want to win some games, but if you look at the games, they were all one-run games. They were in them late. They were in most of the games of this whole opening road trip. I mean, even the game they lost in Toronto, it got out of hand late against the bullpen. So the Rockies have found a way to hang into these ball games, and if they can keep doing that on the road, then maybe they can steal a few wins there, but they do have to get on base more consistently to have a good home schedule.
From a position player perspective, who stuck out to you over 6 games?
Well, TJ Rumfield, the rookie first baseman that they got from the Yankees in a trade for Angel Chivy. What I liked about Rumfield is just the control and the lack of nervousness to his at-bats. But if you look at him, he's the anti-Rockies player when you look at the Rockies players for the last several years, in that he had a very long minor league apprenticeship, because when you're with the Yankees, they can always bring in somebody for more money and you're stuck in the minor leagues. But what the Yankees emphasized was learning how to be the right kind of hitter, because maybe the Yankees would need him, but if they didn't need him, they would need something else, and they trade him for it. And he was very appreciative of that. I think over the last 5 or 6 years, you've seen a lot of Rockies players that end up getting called up because the major league team does not have the depth. You can't have that. You've got to be able to develop players properly. And Rumfield has been developed properly. He not only has a good control of the strike zone, but he's been around long enough to take his chances to really drill a ball. And you saw that in spring training, and you also saw the first major league home run down in Miami.
To that end, about developing guys the right way, I think a lot of Rockies fans saw what Charlie Condon did to begin this season, are going, okay, when are we going to see this guy? Are they going to? Is it going for Rockies fans? I guess the way I would phrase it this way, Thomas, is it going to be, if you think it's time to call him up, wait a beat, and then that's when you will see Charlie Condon? Is that a good way to kind of put it, that even if it seems like he's ready to go, the Rockies may leave him for a little bit longer just to make sure?
Yes, and I covered minor leagues. I actually covered every level of the minor leagues before I got to cover the major leagues. And one of the things I've learned is that if you call up a guy who hasn't struggled, you don't know what you're going to get when he does struggle, because struggles are inevitable. This is a guy, Charlie Condon, who I believe has played less than 200 minor league games. In fact, if you took the TJ Rumfield acquisition and put it and compared it to Charlie Condon, TJ Rumfield is here, so Charlie Condon doesn't have to be here. Okay. Charlie Condon is also learning to play the outfield to where if an opening opens up and they do need him, then he doesn't have to just be a first baseman. Now, Condon also played some third base at the University of Georgia. But when you have a guy who's played less than 200 minor league games and he turns hot in AAA, which is a league where you can't really trust the stats, then what happens when he struggles at the major league level? We've seen that with the Rockies before, where guys run into struggles, or maybe they run into them as soon as they get here, and they haven't had enough seasoning to know what to do when they struggle. TJ Rumfield, he has struggled. I mean, if you look at his prospect list history, even going into this year, he was not on the MLB.com top 30 Rockies prospects. So he has struggled. He's seen people hot on him and cold on him, but he's learned how to handle the struggles that come to being a major league player.
Thomas Harding, my guest, Rockies beat writer for MLB.com. Rockies opening up the Coors Field portion of their schedule tomorrow. Obviously, very encouraging yesterday. The start from Kyle Freeland went pitch for pitch with a fellow Coloradan and Kevin Gossman. What does Kyle need to get back to in his game to maybe start to look like the Kyle Freeland of old?
It's funny. He and I had a discussion this winter, and I asked him, what would you like to recapture from 2017 and 18? And he said, and I found this to be very Kyle Freeland statement, that he's not trying to recapture anything from that era. What he's trying to do is evolve. I mean, if you look at him now, he's throwing the ball slightly harder. He's throwing a hard cutter that separates from a slider. Those are relatively new pitches. With the new pitching coaches that they have in here, he has experimented with some things, throwing that cutter to right-handers and left-handers. It was a pitch that he's messed with. He's messed with the slider. He's also spent his whole career trying to develop a changeup. I think this year is a slightly different changeup than the ones he has tried over the last 7 or 8 years. So he believes in evolving rather than trying to get back to something. And I like that attitude, because they went out and signed some veterans, Michael Lorenzen, who starts tomorrow, Jose Quintana, who I believe is a future pitching coach at the major league level, and Tomoyuki Sugano from Japan, who had that long career in Japan. All these guys have had success, but they're also looking to extend the success by learning new things.
Thomas Harding's feeling about ABS.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, because it happens so quickly. I'm all for it. Listen, I would love to boil the numbers down. Actually, I don't want to, because I got into writing because I didn't want to do that. But if you look at the number of calls that have been changed and you look at the challenges, then compare them to every pitch thrown in the major leagues, it's not that many pitches that get overturned, and the ones that get overturned should be overturned. I think we all want to get things right now. If you're an umpire, obviously, you don't want to be standing there in front of 40,000 people and see the cartoon on the screen that says you were wrong, neither. But it makes the game better.
Would you be a proponent of ABS as just the law of the land, that ABS just calls every ball and strike?
No, I would not be. And part of it is, if you go back to my first time here, when I first got to Denver, it was 2000. The farm director for the Rockies was a guy named Michael Hill. The Sky Sox were in Colorado Springs at the time. Mm-hmm. Michael Hill is with the commissioner's office now, and he's been in charge for years of testing and getting this ABS system right. The issue that I would have with it calling every pitch, the first one is when you go to a review, where the ball crosses the plate, the ABS is set up for kind of the middle of the plate. If you look in depth from the catcher out, it's the middle of the plate. The actual strike zone the umpire is calling is from the front of the plate. That was the only way to get it, so you didn't radically change the strike zone. So I don't want every pitch called like that. I think that the umpires should be able to see a pitch and call it a strike.
Well, we'll see tomorrow and this weekend at Coors Field how many batters or catchers pat their head and Another Rockies season opening up at Coors Field tomorrow. Make sure you are reading Thomas's work beforehand and after the home opener tomorrow. Follow him on Twitter for everything Rockies at Harding _at_ MLB. Thomas, good to see you. And hopefully we can have you on again very soon. Thanks for the time.
I'd love it. And come up to Denver and see me sometime, all right?
I will be up there sooner rather than later. I'll take you up on that. Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. That is Thomas Harding, outstanding beat writer for MLB.com covering the Colorado Rockies. It was, I think for a lot of people, what they did in Toronto was a little eye-opening. Now, we can't, like I was saying with the Avalanche earlier, like, understand what the bigger picture is, what the Rockies are trying to do. The series with a team like Toronto may not be as frequent as you may like, but it just, I think it just shows that there's some things here. There's some players here. And I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I think that's what a lot of Rockies fans want. Just give me a player here, a player there, a pitcher here, a pitcher there, a thought process with the aggressiveness on the base pass. I've loved what I've seen from the Rockies on the base pass so far. Yeah, Warren Schaefer has maybe pushed it a little bit at times, but I think it's better to be too aggressive than not enough. I think there are some ideas forming here with this Rockies team, what you can expect, and I think that's what you turn out to Coors Field maybe to watch, is to watch a team that's going to run around the bases, be exciting, and maybe there are a few players that you might think might be a part of the next really good Rockies team. So it starts tomorrow, the home opener against the Philadelphia Phillies tomorrow afternoon. Coming up next, we shift from baseball to soccer. Big win last night for Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC. For the third straight season, they're on to the third round of the U.S. Open Cup, which means an MLS club will be visiting Colorado Springs and Sporting Kansas City. The goalkeeper of the Switchbacks, Christian Herrera, my guest after this. For the third consecutive year, Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC is on to the third round of the U.S. Open Cup, and this time they will be hosting Sporting Kansas City. Date and time, TBA, but the Switchbacks are through thanks to a thrilling win on penalties last night. They won 4-2 on penalties after the match ended 1-1, and one of the big heroes from that match is somebody who is very familiar with playing the role of hero for the Switchbacks. He is Switchbacks goalkeeper Christian Herrera. Chris, good to have you on, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, Alan, I talked to your head coach, Alan McCann, about the Open Cup a couple of weeks ago, and he said that you guys as a team went to him and kind of told him how you wanted to play it. It's such a unique dynamic, right? You have this kind of independent thing going on while you're chasing a championship. What did you guys decide as a team and ultimately go to Alan about how you wanted to handle the U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, I think that was maybe a little more of a conversation, that the leadership group had with him. But I think as a club, we've wanted to take this tournament seriously from the first round. I think a lot of teams will play maybe a weaker squad and rest some of the regular starters. But for us, we want to go out there and we want to make sure that we're putting out the best squad so we can get the 3 points.
And I know you and Alan are of like mind. You don't like conceding a goal like you did, but overall, I mean, you were named the goalkeeper of the last round of the U.S. Open Cup. How would you grade your performance last night?
Yeah, I think it was a good performance. I think pretty solid overall. Obviously, there's always little details that you can improve on, when you kind of break down the game and scrutinize it. But I was happy with it. The goal we concede is a little more of a collective issue that we're kind of having, but it's just one of those things where we're just gonna have to work on it and grow past those moments.
Yeah, I talked to Alan. I brought up the sports cliche that I know you're very familiar with. Like, before you're going to beat other teams, you got to stop beating yourself. Does it kind of feel that way right now with you guys, that you're getting out of what you guys do, and that's ultimately it? I mean, it's costing you at a rate that I've never seen. Not every opponent should be able to cash in on every mistake, but does it feel like these wounds right now are just self-inflicted?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. Obviously, you have to give respect to the other team as well. I think we've played a pretty dominant, style of play since the first game, and I think it's just been critical moments in our 18 and in the attacking 18, and just in critical moments that we need to kind of step up, and the concentration levels just need to go up. And obviously, we've paid the ultimate price of conceding in the last couple of weeks, but it's just, I think it's part of the process of growth for this team, and it's just one of those things that once we really get a grip on it, it's just we're going to be a lot better off for it.
For sure. Christian Herrera, Switchbacks goalkeeper, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. What's been the dynamic like? You've had teammates. You've kind of had a revolving door of teammates in that goalkeeper room, so to speak. How is the dynamic between you and Colin Shuttler?
Yeah, it's a good dynamic. It's very professional. I think the standard is really high. Our goalie coach Kelly does a really good job at making sure that we're keeping the standard high every single day. So I've enjoyed it so far. I like having a solid goalkeeper, to train with every day, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. But and I talked to Alan today about this. I said, how difficult is your decision right now in goal? And he said, it's very difficult, but I want it that way. He's been pleased, obviously, with the way that you've played and the way that Colin has played. And he won't tell me anything, and I'm not going to let you get me in trouble with Alan. So I'm not going to ask you if you're starting on Saturday, but hey, it's good to see two goalkeepers here in Colorado Springs that fans are very, and the coach is very confident in as well. How about the two guys in front of you? Obviously, Matt is Matt. You and him are two of the core members of this team for a few years now. Adding talent to the mix, how has that been?
It's been great. Tal's a great player. I think defending wise, he's a really, really good 1v1 defender. Enjoys defending the box, enjoys making uh blocks and saves, and he really a little bit of like that old school defending mentality that you kind of maybe you've seen defenders get away from nowadays. And as far as his impact on the team. Just a good personality, very positive person, and yeah, he's a good player, man. I think we have a really, Garv Metusala as well. He's a top player, so I think whoever you put in the back, I think we're solid.
Christian Herrera, my guess. Any difference between Alan McCann assistant coach and Alan McCann head coach?
Um, yeah, obviously. I think it's two different roles. It's not like a major, major difference, but I do think it's a different role, obviously being an assistant coach and being a head coach.
Mm.
And so, but yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. The standard is really, really high, which is something that as players we need to be held to every day. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Uh, this weekend, you guys, I know you've been playing the Open Cup matches, but as far as USL Championship, you guys haven't been able to have many matches here at home. That's not anything new. It's the way it goes. But does it put, you go back to that Vegas game and then you look at Saturday for Lexington. Is there even more on these games? Like, I know you guys want to make Widener Field a fortress, and you have been successful in that most years. Is there a little bit more on these early season contests because you just haven't had that many of them at Widener Field?
Yeah. Obviously, I think most teams know what it's going to be like when you come to Widener Field, from the altitude, the size of the field, the noise, and just in general how we play. It's going to be a tough game. And so yeah, these early games of us finally getting to play in our stadium, and um, really just showing up for the fans, and showing up for ourselves, because we put in a lot of work during the week, and we're excited to finally be at home and really take advantage of these home games.
For sure. And I know you are constantly fine-tuning your game, working on it, looking to get better every day, every week, every month, every year. How is Christian Herrera a better goalkeeper now than he maybe was a calendar year ago?
Yeah, man, I'd say pound for pound, miles ahead.
Mm.
Um, I've really locked in on my diet. I went into the off season and made a lot of changes, lost a lot of weight, went in and evaluated most of my games, and I think just upped my game in every single aspect. So, um, yeah, man, I think way better, to be honest.
Yeah. What'd you cut out of the diet that led to the slimmer Christian Herrera?
Um, No, I mean, I think I've always been a pretty disciplined person,
Yep.
but I think just looking all around the world and seeing goalkeepers that are around my height and my profile, kind of at the top levels, seeing what their weights are and comparing it to mine, and just being like, well, if I want to be a top goalkeeper, not only in the USL but in the world, I need to be at that weight that they're at, and
Mhm.
so it was just really getting to that weight.
So it's more not necessarily radically changing your diet, but just, maybe working out a little bit more or something like that. So just a few tweaks to what was already part of your routine.
Yeah, and I'd say honestly, it's mainly in the off season. It was the actual losing weight. I think I went to off season and I lost like 10 to 12 pounds. Now at this point, it's just being very, very disciplined about just what I'm eating, the amount of calories I'm taking in every day, the weight that I'm at in the morning, the weight that I'm at night. All those small little details are just they matter. They matter, and so I think for me, locking into those details has been something that's really helped me.
Well, the early returns, it's working. So don't change the thing, Chris. Congratulations on the win last night, and looking forward to seeing you guys out at Widener Field on Saturday to get a win against Lexington. Thanks so much for the time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. That is Christian Herrera, Switchbacks goalkeeper, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. Yeah, he is and look, the entire Switchbacks team over the years. Every guys that are still here, guys that are gone, incredibly dedicated to their craft, right? You don't get to even where they do unless you are dedicated to your craft. But I will say that Christian is a notch above a lot of guys that you see. I mean, he is so locked in and looking for different ways to just keep upping his game. And in these U.S. Open Cup matches, it's been more Colin Shuttler in the USL Championship lately. And Chris has been in the Open Cup, but he's played great. And we'll see. I was out at training earlier this afternoon. Well, not at training. Training was over, but I visited with Alan McCann, just talking to him for the pregame show and all that kind of stuff. But that was, again, I asked him whether it felt different this time around where they're at, because it's 3 straight years now that they've been in this round in the U.S. Open Cup. And I asked if it felt different. And he said, yes, the seriousness of which the guys are taking it, it does feel different. And I think there was, like a happy to be here type of feeling with the Switchbacks as they would advance. And Chris talked about it, right? You rotate the squad a little bit, maybe give a guy some run that hasn't been playing a lot. And then you end up getting to round 3 and you get to play an MLS club. And it's just like, cool, we get to play an MLS club. Now the feeling around the team is they're hosting Sporting Kansas City here in a couple weeks to beat them. They want to showcase that. And it seems like, in a way, such an obvious, like, well, why wouldn't they want to win? Well, they want to win. I think there's a difference between wanting to win and not wanting to lose. You know what I mean? Like, you want to win every match, but how okay are you with losing? And I think one of the themes so far with this Switchbacks team under Alan McCann, they're very much not okay with losing. Like, they hate it. And not every team, there are levels to this, and not every team is at the level that they need to be. And this Switchbacks team, and talking to the players and talking to Alan McCann as much as I do, they hate to lose. And they would hate the idea of losing to even a club that plays one level up in American soccer. So they're going into that match when it is announced in the next week or two. They're going in to win. Hopefully the weather, that was the big thing with me last year. If you went out to that game, that was terrible weather. Oh, for that New York Red Bulls match. Let's hope at least that. Let's get the weather right. And then hopefully a great Switchbacks performance. So today it was announced that the Switchbacks would be hosting Sporting Kansas City. So I will inform you as soon as the details come out, what day it is, what time it is. Obviously, you could go and get tickets at switchbacksfc.com. So just file that away, but that would be really cool. It would be just the second time ever that an MLS club has played at Widener Field. But in the immediate future, it's about Lexington. And I think they got the New Mexico game pretty much out of their system last night. I mean, Talon Maples, I think he was the perfect example. If you were watching the match or you were at the match, did you see the emotion with Talon Maples? I don't think anyone wanted to beat New Mexico United more than Talon did. And for that game to go the way it did on the weekend, where the Switchbacks battle back, couple of penalty kicks from Corey Bennett to tie the match, and you still almost at the death give up the match-winning goal. It was a gut punch after the gut punch of Orange County. And I thought you saw from Talon especially the emotion, the catharsis of getting back on track, playing the way that they want to, and in getting a win. But getting a win in the Open Cup is great. The biggest prize they're chasing this year is the USL Championship crown. And Alan has talked about how important these early season matches are. This is another one of those at home against Lexington, just their second home match of the season. So, and you heard Chris say it, there's a lot on these matches early on because they just don't get that many of them. So, with all that being said, would you perhaps like to go to the game on Saturday? I have a 4-pack of tickets to see the Switchbacks take on Lexington SC. It is an afternoon start. We've had a run of these lately. The afternoon starts at 3 o'clock. So if you are interested in having an afternoon out at Widener Field, be the 13th texter to text Switchbacks and your name to 719-247-1313. Coming up next, as we settle things down a bit after the terrific back-to-back guests with Thomas Harding and Christian Herrera, the Nordiques weren't the only team in action last night. The Denver Nuggets, because they were not wearing Denver Rockets uniforms, look pretty good. But a question emerges from another triple-double performance of Nikola Jokic. Are we undervaluing what Nikola Jokic is doing? We'll get into that topic coming up next. You're listening to 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Appreciate you watching the show. Anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR, at Extra Sports 1300. And while you're there, like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment, because this is an interactive experience. Speaking of, plenty of ways for you to reach out to the show, including texting or calling in at 719-247-1313. So it was a mixed bag last night in terms of the teams of the Kroenke Sports Empire. Turned out well for the Denver Nuggets as they get a 13-point win over the Utah Jazz, 130-117. And I've talked about this before, how so many Nuggets games follow a similar pattern. Well, there's also kind of, I'm thinking of the line death taxes, and then you insert the third thing there, right? The absolutes, the things that always are and always will be. I think those for the Denver Nuggets are Jamal Murray, crazy scoring night. Or I shouldn't say crazy, because that would imply that there's some level of that you're not expecting it. A big night scoring from Jamal Murray. A triple-double from Nikola Jokic, and an injury. Like, those are the three things that you can almost count on most every single Nuggets game. And last night, Tim Hardaway gets hurt. Thumbs up, thumbs down, Ray. Any word on Tim Hardaway? Nothing. So we'll all find that out together, won't we? Jonas Valanciunas got some run. That's something. But yeah, it's just Aaron Gordon was back in the lineup. Did Aaron Gordon get hurt? Yeah, good. Just want to double check that Aaron Gordon did. Oh, Peyton Watson was the other one. I was thinking there was another one. Peyton Watson got hurt with a hamstring, but it doesn't sound like either are too serious. But I just can't with the injuries. Yes, if the Nuggets aren't fully healthy, I don't think they're going to go that far. And there are players that are more integral to what they do than others. The injury stuff, I'm just so over it because it's happening so much. So hopefully the latest round of injuries are not anything that will greatly impact the Denver Nuggets, who don't have that many games left. If you noticed this, we got a few. So Jamal Murray hits 10 threes. Again, could not be. You want to talk about ethical basketball? Jamal Murray shot 3 free throws last night. 3. And scored 37 points. He was 12 of 26 from the field, 10 of 16 from deep. And then Nikola Jokic, another triple-double, which for him clinches a triple-double for the season. And it's back-to-back years now that Nikola Jokic has done this. And I don't know that there is as much appreciation. Right? And I'm not saying whatever. Just there's not enough acknowledgement of what Nikola Jokic is doing. I'm not, and I have not I've not said that Nikola Jokic should win MVP. So that's not what this is about. But the guy is going to average a triple-double in back-to-back years. Like, that is crazy. I am old enough to remember when the only guy who had ever averaged a triple-double for the year was Oscar Robertson. It was one of the most unattainable things was Oscar Robertson's triple-double season. It was always thought, no one could do it. How many years passed before anybody else did it. And now we're sitting here and it's just kind of like, yeah, and Nikola Jokic is going to average a triple-double again this year. Yeah, and I can't sit here and say that I'm not part of the problem, because I forgot that Russell Westbrook did this 4 times. I think I am guilty of what I am accusing some of being guilty of now. I was in on Russell Westbrook when I remember on this show arguing for him to be the MVP. I thought, no doubt, the guy averaged a freaking triple-double. One other guy in the history of basketball has done that. He had to win that MVP. And you know what I did? I immediately stopped caring about averaging a triple-double for the season, or at least that's kind of how I feel like I must have handled it. And now I'm sitting here with Jokic. I'm like, why aren't more people talking about the fact that the guy is going to average a triple-double in back-to-back seasons? And then I think, because they're doing the same thing I did. So let me right that wrong right now. Shame on me for not marveling more at what Russell Westbrook was able to do with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because it is remarkable to impact the game in that number of ways at such a high level for an entire season. But then you add on top of it that this is a center. Points and rebounds, okay. You could expect that. The assists. The fact that Nikola Jokic is going to lead the league in assists. And for the second straight year, average more than 10 assists per game. So the accomplishment from any player is remarkable to average a triple-double for the season. I don't care what position you play. But for a center to do it in back-to-back years, that's even more remarkable. And I think what's happened is that the story of Nikola Jokic has been overshadowed by this MVP race. And I was talking to Ray about this earlier today. You know, we have one of the best MVP races we have had. Best in terms of depth. You have SGA, you have Wemby, you have Jokic, you have Luka, you have Jaylen Brown, you had Cade Cunningham. When's the last time we had that many guys that you could go, yeah, I could see them winning MVP? I can't remember the last time. We've had some compelling individual, one-on-one. Embiid Jokic was quite compelling until Kendrick Perkins ruined it. We've had other years where there have been like 3 guys. We got 6 guys who have a worthy claim to be the league's most valuable player. And with all the bad stuff going on right now in the NBA, as much as everybody wants to focus on that stuff, and I'm not much different, let's take a moment to recognize how cool that is that there are this many MVP candidates. But because of the depth of this class and the fact that Jokic is not one of the top 1 or 2, the story of his season has gotten way too lost here. Because I'll take it one step further. What an MVP is, beyond what those letters mean, is who's the biggest story of the year? Like, which player is the biggest story of the year? And to me, when I phrase it that way, I think it's Victor Wembanyama. So he should win the MVP. But what Nikola Jokic is doing is not just about this year. The triple-double thing is about the last 2 years. But let's zoom out even further. Since Kawhi Leonard beat the Golden State Warriors and that dynasty ended, and I know the Warriors popped up a few years later with another title, but that, to me, I look at that, even though there are some of the same players, it's separate. There was the dynasty, and then there was the other Warriors title that they won. Once the Warrior dynasty ended, which has been 7 years, what has any one player or team done that is more of a story than this stretch that Nikola Jokic has put together? We've had a revolving door of NBA champions, so no dynasties. And I would say that a dynasty does overshadow any one player's accomplishments. But we don't have a dynasty right now in the NBA. Over the last 7 years, since the Warrior dynasty ended, if you had to mark an accomplishment or a player or a team to span a certain number of years till you get to the next one. I mean, this is the Nikola Jokic era. No one in the league is doing something as impactful as he is. And it's culminated the last 2 years with him averaging a triple-double. 3 MVPs as well. 1 championship. And that's what kind of rubbed me the wrong way when it came to the Ringer taking Jokic down as the best player in the world and putting Shea up there. Because Jokic has played at this high level for longer than Shea has been in the league. And he hasn't dropped off. He's maintained, and he has the same number of championships right now as Shea. He has more MVPs, even if Shea were to win this year. I think we don't see the forest for the trees sometimes. Yeah, Nikola Jokic getting a triple-double may not be enough to win the MVP, but look at what this guy is doing over the last 7 years. And the last 2 have been arguably 2 of his finest, at least in terms of statistical accomplishment. And I just think because we have such a lively MVP debate, which I am a fan of, I just think what happened last night, Nikola Jokic cementing a triple-double average for the year, has gotten a little bit pushed to the back burner, and it shouldn't be. And I think there's enough room in our minds to be able to say, Nikola Jokic, not MVP, but my God, do you see what this guy is doing? Look at this run of success he is having. He is still one of only now 3 players in the history of basketball to average a triple-double. And while Oscar Robertson's triple-double season was the finest statistically out of any of these that Russell Westbrook or Nikola Jokic have had since, that was his only one. Westbrook did it 4 times. Nikola Jokic has done it twice. An unthinkable accomplishment 15 years ago has now happened 6 times, and 2 of them, the last 2 of them, have been by a center. Sometimes you just got to say these things out loud to put it in its place and to fully grasp what this guy is doing. And if, while I'm on the subject here, Ray showed me a video from Robert Parrish the other day. He was on FanDuel TV with Beadle and Parsons. And he said the only player other than LeBron, right? He acknowledged LeBron, didn't he, Ray? Don't hurt yourself. My goodness.
Yeah,
It was LeBron.
LeBron and KD.
But I'm saying, so Robert Parrish was basically asked, like, how many of the players today would compare to Larry Bird?
Right, yeah.
In their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
So was LeBron, so either LeBron wasn't mentioned or he put LeBron in there.
No, LeBron was mentioned. So then Parrish took it as like a seat at that table with those names.
Oh, that picture.
Yeah.
That picture that's floated around and everyone keeps asking.
And then he said, well, out of the new players, because they mentioned LeBron and KD and all them, and he said only LeBron, and then out of the new players, that guy in Denver. Yeah.
So it got me thinking a little bit on this as Jokic just continues to rise in terms of his accomplishments and what he's able to do. And I'm thinking about that because Larry Bird is not on the Mount Rushmore for me, but he's very close. Right? He's on the Mount Rushmore bench. If and it's a big if right now, if Nikola Jokic can get another ring and puts together 12 to 15 years. I don't know how much longer he's playing. But if he's already put in how many years? He gets to about 12 to 15-year NBA career where he's averaging triple doubles multiple years. I'm not saying he has to do it every single year from here on out. But let's say he matches Russell Westbrook. And he gets at least one more title. More titles would solidify his case even more. Are we going to be talking about Nikola Jokic knocking on the door of that Mount Rushmore like Larry Bird is? Are when all is said and done, because I'll say, in a Robert Parrish, I don't expect him to say this, given that that rivalry runs deep. Could we? I think Magic Johnson is a greater all-time player than Larry Bird. I mean, 1A, 1B, however you want to say it, they're both amazing players. I think that Magic is above Bird. And I have Magic Johnson on that Mount Rushmore. Kareem, Jordan, LeBron, and Magic. With what Nikola Jokic is doing at the position he's doing it at. When all is said and done, I could see myself potentially moving Magic off and putting Nikola Jokic on there. Granted, got to win again. And look, as well as I do, it's not all on Nikola Jokic and why. It's very little on Nikola Jokic, if we're being honest, why the Nuggets only have one ring right now, one title. But I think it matters when you're talking about these guys that have led dynasties. And they all have. All four of the guys on the Mount Rushmore have been a part of a dynasty. And maybe that's what ultimately has to happen. Again, I can't see that far into the future to say, okay, if Jokic only wins one more, what does he have to do statistically? Does he have to get more than the 3 MVPs? I'm just looking at what he's doing, because even these last 2 years are a step up in some ways than what he's been at. He never averaged a triple-double until the last 2 years. I think we're going to be having that conversation. If he sustains this, I'm not saying for sure I would move him off or move Magic off and put Jokic on, because I would say right now he's below Larry Bird. I think he's below Kobe Bryant. So he's got a little ways to go, but as I just zoom out and I'm like, yeah, if this guy keeps it up, we're going to have some real conversations about this guy. And could you imagine even the mere thought of Nikola Jokic being brought into that conversation, even if you don't ultimately end up putting him on your Mount Rushmore? Just the fact that you would consider him, maybe when all is said and done, that's remarkable. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Nikola Jokic back-to-back years averaging a triple-double and helping the Denver Nuggets win their 7th in a row, by the way, last night over the Utah Jazz. More Drive Time Sports after this. 719-247 1313. That is the phone and text line if you'd like to jump aboard, give your thoughts. Actually, since we just left off, Ray, with the Jokic conversation, two things. Where did we have him? How many did we count? We did this during the break.
Right.
How many did we count that I guess the way I would put it is there needs to be a significant development with Nikola Jokic. So either another MVP or two, another title or two, another 7 years of this stretch, something significant would have to happen in order for Nikola Jokic to have any chance at passing. We said Michael, LeBron, Magic, Kareem. We said Bird.
Yep.
We said Kobe.
Yep.
We said who do we say was
Bill
Russell?
Mm-hmm.
We said it would take something
Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, did you already say Chamberlain?
Wilt.
And,
although he's going to be Wilt, I mean, Nikola Jokic is going to be Wilt. Take nothing away from the dominance of Wilt Chamberlain. Nikola Jokic is going to be Wilt Chamberlain with that has hopefully, knock on wood, the Denver Nuggets figure it out, has had more team success,
Jokic
more titles.
Needs to score 101 in a game.
That's what needs to happen. He needs to go full Bam Adebayo and just
and then
hunt for 101.
And then Steph.
That's 10. So he's 11th.
So those were the top
Shaq.
10.
We
Shaq.
said still Shaq, but I would expect Nikola Jokic to be viewed. Nikola Jokic is going to go down as the greatest, modern day center. I think he will ultimately pass Shaq.
Mm-hmm. So he would be 12.
So he'd be like 12 right now,
top 12 all time,
or reasonably saying, if he quit tomorrow, maybe we'd have to rethink some of these spots. But we think comfortably he's going to be in the top 12 when all is said and done.
So we put him over Hakeem.
Yes, he'll be over Olajuwon.
KD.
Yes.
Garnett
and Oscar Robertson.
Yep. Garnett. Jerry West, Dirk, David Robinson, and Dr. J.
And that's the rest of the top 20 of the list you pulled up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's comfortably going to be in the top 12. Probably going to be in the top 10. But it would take quite a bit. I mean, that group is pretty solidified there at the top.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, you could imagine him being a top 10 player all time. That's big.
Like top 15, and
he's top 15 now.
Now that's what I'm saying. Like, just for Denver fans, we're watching a top 15 all time, and sometimes we get frustrated because of random reasons here and there. Just we got to enjoy it
for sure. And I think you could talk about Patrick Waugh being one of the best goaltenders of all time, and you can talk about John Elway being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But Waugh wouldn't be one of the greatest hockey players of all time. He'd be very specifically best goalies. And John Elway, how many more players would you throw in with the Jim Browns and things like that to move him down the list a little bit? But not since Elway have we had an athlete that could truly say he's one of the 10 best to ever play his sport.
Exactly.
So pretty remarkable. I mentioned as well that maybe I am guilty of some of what fans across the country and the media is in kind of taking triple-double for a season for granted, because I had to be reminded that Russell Westbrook did it 4 times.
Yeah.
I think Brett might have a really good point on the text line.
Yeah, Brett. the reason you forgot about Russell Westbrook and his triple-double average is because Russell Westbrook was a stat hog. He padded his statistics, and he played on losing team. The
Mhm.
difference between Westbrook and Jokic is Jokic makes his team better. Russell Westbrook made himself better.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I don't think that other than there's been some recent thoughts from people that maybe assists are being given when they shouldn't be. It's not, and I think that's kind of it's a problem throughout the NBA, not just a Jokic issue. If you really dig down deep into it, home scores being a little bit more favorable, and you see this in baseball. Sometimes an official scorer will rule a guy on the home team for a hit when it really should be an error. It's a judgment call. It's a gray area, so they can kind of use that. And they may lean more towards the home team, but that's an issue throughout the NBA, not just Nikola Jokic. But yeah, that's the. I think that's probably certainly why after a while you kind of lost sight of Russell Westbrook continuously averaging triple doubles. Was the stat padding. I don't want to be too strong on that because there were some incidents certainly, but 82 games is a long season. I think the losing is the best point that Brett brings up. If you average a triple double, that's all well and good. But if your team is not any good, then.
Well, it's like when his first MVP, he averaged a triple double. He was a 6 seed, but everybody was like, oh, it doesn't matter. He averaged a triple double.
Right.
After that year, everybody was just like, oh, okay. But with Jokic, the Nuggets are always contenders when he's been doing
because he's doing what he's doing, right? That's we know that. And without Nikola Jokic putting up these kind of numbers on a nightly basis, the Nuggets would be a very different team. So great point by Brett. You can also comment on our live stream, and I will display the comment as such. Eric comes in on Facebook and says, so was that whole Aaron Rodgers thing an April Fool's joke or no? Yesterday, we got into the conversation regarding Mike Florio's work of prose, saying that the Broncos are thinking, there's talk that the Broncos are thinking about bringing Aaron Rodgers in for a visit. Now, some Broncos media, I would not say they're ones, some of these ones, I'm not going to name names, but some of these ones will take some liberties with the way they word things, and how you word things really matters. Like I saw one tweet that was, this is an April Fool's joke. Actually, no, Mike Florio said in his piece it was not an April Fool's joke. That he really heard this. So I think my answer to your question or comment, Eric, is no, it was not an April Fool's joke. But Broncos, Nick Kosmider of The Athletic is I think, a very good Broncos reporter, and said, basically, nothing to see here. They're not bringing him in for a visit. Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback. Carry on. That all can be true. And Mike Florio also be true.
Right.
Because all Mike Florio was saying was that he had heard there was talk that the Broncos were thinking about bringing in Aaron Rodgers for a visit. He did not say they are bringing him in for a visit. He did not say anything about how maybe someone in the Broncos offices laughed at that notion. None of that stuff. All he said was they were thinking about it, and I said I can't dismiss that. So there are some Broncos reporters or media members that are going to go above and beyond to make it like absolutely nothing to see here. I don't think it was nothing, but ultimately, was it ever going to be the next step that they actually brought him in? I don't think so either.
No, it was a report that came out on the wrong day.
It did.
If it would have came out on any other day, it would have been taken seriously.
It would have been. It would have been taken more seriously for sure. But I'm told in this business that I am in, and media as a whole kind of has this. You don't hang on to things.
Yeah.
You don't go, hey, I have this idea. Like at the start of the show, I'm gonna lay into the Avalanche for wearing their stupid Nordiques jerseys. I'm not gonna save that for Friday. I'm gonna talk about it the day after they wore them. So if Mike Florio gets this information that he knows is going to cause conversation, that is certainly interesting.
Right.
You don't sit on that and wait. I'm not going to do it on April Fool's. I mean, you're right. It came out on the wrong day. But Mike Florio, when he gets the information and he feels good about it, he's going to put it out.
And not just anything, how do I say this? Like, no offense or disrespect towards Mike. But at the end of the day, what he's sitting on this, doesn't say anything because he's like, oh, it's April Fool's. 2 days later, it comes out from someone else, and it's something does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I could have been the guy.
Right. And we know these NFL insider wars that go on. And we see 2 of them getting into a physical altercation at the combine last year. Like it's high stakes. So if you have something that you feel like has some validity to it, you're going to put it out there. But there's what Mike Florio said, I believe happened. I believe that sitting down on a random weekday when the Denver Broncos are trying to evaluate, okay, what else is left in free agency? What would we like to upgrade? Can we upgrade here? This is their job. I fully believe that Aaron Rodgers' name came up.
Yes.
Now, what happened after his name came up is the question. Could what have happened be, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers? Should we bring him in for a visit? Oh, maybe we should see if he'd be in for a visit. And then somebody, Sean Payton or George Payton, could say, yeah, that's not a good idea for all the reasons I laid out yesterday, that even as a backup, he looms too large. He's too big of a distraction to have behind a quarterback that is in a really important year, and the team is in a really important year. So I don't think it was an April Fool's joke. I believe Mike Florio when he says it wasn't an April Fool's joke. But what a lot of the Denver media is tweeting out could also be true, that they're not bringing him in. And that's what Nick Kosmider said. They're not bringing him in for a visit. Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback. Carry on. Okay. And I believe that too. Yeah. I believe that the Broncos are a smart enough organization that even if they throw out an idea like that, which is fine, that somebody put the kibosh on it immediately and said, yeah, we're not doing that. So it was poor. It was poor timing, certainly from Mike Florio, but you got something, you got to run with it.
Sometimes can't we just have fun in media? It was a fun topic. You never know what's going to happen.
I thought, well, we had back-to-back, and I was thinking about this. Maybe we'll get into this next. Let me ask this question, because I was pondering this in the car ride home last night. What would the Avalanche or Rockies equivalent, and maybe the Avs are a little bit more fun because they're a team like the Nuggets and like the Broncos that are in like a contention window.
Mm-hmm.
So as both of those organizations look for different ways to improve, LeBron, Aaron Rodgers, what would be the Avs one? What would be the Avs one? Huh?
Sorry, I just know one off top.
Okay, well, let me take a break, and then I'll ask you. I'll ask you as well. We talked about the idea of LeBron being on the Denver Nuggets, and you didn't like that as much as I did. We all agreed that Aaron Rodgers on the Broncos was a bad idea. What would be like the Avalanche equivalent? Like if you saw a name that the Avalanche were being linked to, you would go, oh my God, no, absolutely not. We'll get into that next here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. So I was pondering this with the last couple of days being the think piece from ESPN about Denver being a potential fit for LeBron James beyond this year, and the Mike Florio story saying that the Broncos were thinking about bringing Aaron Rodgers in. And there was both of those guys were met with like a visceral reaction. Like, no. Now, I would say that it was more of a visceral reaction for LeBron than it was Aaron Rodgers, because there were some people commenting on Facebook that they wouldn't mind Aaron Rodgers holding a clipboard. I think I explained well why that still wouldn't work. But I think a lot of people, the overwhelming majority of the last 2 days, no on LeBron and no on Aaron Rodgers. And I was thinking about this. Would there be an Avalanche equivalent? Because I mentioned the Rockies before the break, and then I was telling Ray during the commercial break, like anybody good, if Barry Bonds could still swing a bat, Rockies fans would embrace him with open arms just to help their team be a little bit better. So it's not as fun with the Rockies, but with the Avalanche, right? They're in a title window, and we've seen this with Chris McFarland. He's willing to do, just trading for Nazem Kadri. He is willing, if there is a position that he can upgrade, he will do it. So is there somebody that could be linked to the Avalanche at some point this offseason or beyond that as fans would have that same visceral reaction to? And the name that immediately came to my mind, there's really two. One more recently than the other. One would be Mikko Rantanen. If I told you this offseason, forget money, okay? The Avalanche would make it work. The Avalanche could replace Arturi Lehkonen with Mikko Rantanen. Still keep Kadri, still keep McKinnon, Makar, like just like I'm talking about with LeBron and Aaron Rodgers. You'd be able to bring them in and not have to sacrifice any of your core guys. You would just add them to the mix. Would Avalanche fans welcome Mikko Rantanen back? Or would they have the visceral reaction and say, no way? I would say that Avalanche fans would welcome Mikko Rantanen back if this totally made up hypothetical scenario were to come to pass. I would say that the Avalanche fan base would say, you know what, Mikko, come on back. Come join us. Come back over to the light side. But the player that's a little bit older that I think we've had this conversation about, it's Matt Duchene. I remember before Matt Duchene went to Dallas, and he was in Nashville before that, right? I said that the Avs should bring back Matt Duchene, and I was met by some of that reaction that I have gotten. Well, I didn't get yesterday because we were on the same side of it, because I thought Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos would be a terrible idea. But I got the same reaction I did when I said, the LeBron James thing, when you really think about it, makes a lot of sense. I got that kind of a reaction from Matt Duchene, that as fans were like, no, don't want that guy back. But somebody brought up on the text line the idea of like a Pat Maroon. And I was thinking about like the Lightning, right? Or how about this? That I think Pat Maroon, I wouldn't love it, but I kind of think Tom Wilson, I think a lot of these guys, and I know Maroon has more history with the Avs than a Tom Wilson, but I think these guys genuinely, you like them on your side. How about this one? Okay, and this makes it a total fantastical scenario because this dude is absolutely washed. Jordan Binnington. That's the one. That's the one I'm going to go with. If, let's say, and it's perfect. That position is perfect. Because right now, after last night, and I'll reset with the 3 stories that are driving the show coming up and tell you about the unfortunate experience Mackenzie Blackwood had last night. We play out this playoff, and the Avs can rely on either Scott Wedgwood or Mackenzie Blackwood, but can't rely on the other. Kind of like the idea of bringing Aaron Rodgers in to back up Bo Nix, be an insurance policy for Bo Nix. If going into next year, Scott Wedgwood or Mackenzie Blackwood was the guaranteed starter, and all Chris McFarland was trying to do was upgrade the backup goalie spot, and Jordan Binnington would fit that description, he would be an upgrade, which he's not. For the record, he's not. But if he were, that would be the guy. That would be the guy that I would sit here on this show and go, you want Jordan Binnington? Plus, you would have the dynamic of Jordan Binnington on the same team as Nazem Kadri. That would be the one. That's the one I'm going with. The comparison to LeBron on the Nuggets or Aaron Rodgers on the Broncos would be Jordan Binnington coming in to be the backup goalie of the Colorado Avalanche. But with that group of Red Wings players kind of moving on, this would be an easier question in the 90s. Because you just be like, Darren McCarty, no way. Darian Hatcher, no way. I don't want any of these guys. Chris Osgood, forget that guy. That would be easy. It's a little bit harder now. I would say it would be Jordan Binnington. Mikko Rantanen, I think, would be welcomed back to the Avalanche, especially right now, because he's still a very good player. I think these goon-type players, I think if you're a true hockey fan, they endear themselves to you fairly quickly, and you're just happy that they're on your side. Corey Perry might be a good one as well. That dude has bounced around a lot of different places, and he's not well-liked anywhere. But I think for the best one, because of the history, it would be Jordan Binnington coming to the Colorado Avalanche. That one, and by the way, it would be like Aaron Rodgers. I'd say, no, this is a very, very bad idea. This would not be like the LeBron thing, where I think it is a good idea. 719-247-1313. We'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show coming up next. And don't forget, at 5:30, Joe Crispin, the new head coach of the Air Force men's basketball team, will join me. You're listening to 740 KVOR as well as Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or you're listening on the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. Joe Crispin, the new head coach of Air Force men's basketball, will be joining me at the bottom of the hour. The rest of the time, it could be you at 719-247-1313. Perhaps you have a thought on these, the three stories that are driving the show. All right, because I am a negative guy, why don't we start with the most negative of the stories today? May I present to you the 2025-2026 Quebec Nordiques.
3-on-1 as Natchez tries to hustle back in front. Bluger. And he scores. I don't know where Teddy Bluger came from. 2 goals for Bluger. He's a +3 on the night. And Vancouver has a 4-2 lead.
It didn't get better from there, or I guess it got decent for a little while, but ultimately the Quebec Nordiques fall to the Vancouver Canucks by a final of 8-6, and it is quite genius by the Avs to plan all of their worst performances of the year when they are wearing those atrocious, awful Quebec Nordiques uniforms. They are 2-4 this year when wearing those jerseys, and they have had to pull their goaltender in 3 of those games, including last night with Mackenzie Blackwood. But if this is the price to pay to ultimately rid ourselves of any mention of the Quebec Nordiques in Denver, I am all for it. I think that history should have been left in Quebec, and I don't think they should have brought those sweaters out of storage, and I certainly don't think that they should have brightened the colors because they look even worse now than they looked before. The Avalanche shouldn't be doing this, and it is very clear that it hurts them on the ice to wear those uniforms. 2-4 this year, and last night they lost to the worst team in the National Hockey League. Gave up 8 goals, 7 of them with a goalie in the net, to the worst team in the league. So that's my big, because I'm not going to go off the deep end here and say that last night's game is some referendum on the Colorado Avalanche. They played like garbage. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And they don't get an attaboy for rallying to tie a game that they should have never had to rally from behind in the first place. But zoom out a little bit. They were coming off of that Flames win 9-2. They completely and utterly, and with Dallas on the horizon, completely and utterly overlooked Vancouver. It was an embarrassing loss. Everything you say about the loss itself is absolutely correct. We just don't need to take it a step further and say that somehow now the Avs are less than as a hockey team. And if previous history, recent history is any indication, they'll play very well against the Dallas Stars coming up on Saturday. But my biggest takeaway from that game is, can we finally get rid of the Nordique stuff? If that's what happens, I will not demand my money back for the 3 hours I spent watching that hockey game last night. Probably should have been watching the Nuggets instead.
Back behind him over to Murray. And a three. Yes! That one will help. Puts Denver up 123 to 108 with 2.5 to go.
Jason Kosmicki on the call for Altitude Sports Radio. The Denver Nuggets with a 13-point win over the Utah Jazz last night. Jamal Murray with one of his 10 3-pointers that he made in that game you just heard. Jamal Murray, another very ethical 37 points, only taking 3 free throws. And it seems like almost every Nuggets game has 3 elements to it. You have one of these, Jamal Murray catching fire. You have Nikola Jokic with a triple-double, and you have a Nugget getting hurt. Well, you got to at least have one. 2 last night were hurt in that game, allegedly. Peyton Watson got hurt in that game. He was one of them, but the more abundance of caution, and I think the same can kind of be said about Tim Hardaway, and we will certainly see here as the Nuggets will not be in action again until Saturday to see what the official status of these guys are. But I don't want to dwell on the injury stuff because we've talked enough injuries this year. I'll talk about it if they're out, and if they're out for more than just one game. The Jamal Murray thing I've talked about before. When he gets hot, there are very few things in sports quite like it. But let me focus on what Nikola Jokic did last night, because what he did was clinch back-to-back seasons averaging a triple-double. And I can hardly find that headline. It's been buried with this MVP conversation. It's been buried with the tanking conversation. It should not be buried. Just 15 years ago, one of the most unattainable things that has happened in NBA history was what Oscar Robertson did. Average a triple-double for the season. It was unthinkable that anybody would be able to do that. And yet in the time since, we've had 6 seasons averaging a triple-double. Russell Westbrook had 4 of them. No, Nikola Jokic now has 2. And he's done it as a center. The assists are the numbers that you focus on. The fact that this guy, as a 7-foot center, has averaged double-digit assists for a year, back-to-back years, is remarkable. And not only do I think that this story should not be buried, I think it should be elevated. I think it's fine you talk about the MVP because that's the story of this season. What Nikola Jokic is doing is the story of the league over the last 7 years. Once the Warrior dynasty came toppling down, when Klay got hurt and Kevin Durant got hurt and they got beat by the Raptors, and ultimately Kevin Durant leaving shortly thereafter. There is nothing that anyone in the NBA has done more significant than this stretch that Nikola Jokic has had. 2 seasons averaging a triple-double. 3 MVPs. A title. Nikola Jokic is the story of the NBA over the better part of a decade. He may not be the biggest story this year because he's done it before, because there are new players like Victor Wembanyama, Luka in a Laker jersey. There's some newness here that gets this stuff that's happened before kind of pushed down. But I say you can't let it do that. You know, I always say on this show, we can't take it for granted. We're not. I need to stop saying that. We are not. They are. Back-to-back years averaging a triple-double. That needs to be one of the biggest, should be one of the biggest stories in the NBA world today. And it doesn't really feel like it is. So I don't know. Maybe we're back to Nikola Jokic not getting enough respect. I get, everything that is old becomes new again, right? That's what they say. Perhaps we're entering a cycle where now people are not fully taking stock of what they are seeing with Nikola Jokic. But I'll test out that theory as we move forward. But Nikola Jokic, another triple-double last night. He will average one for the season in back-to-back years. Now let us go over to more good news. Here's story number 3. The U.S. Open Cup. That audio courtesy of that on YouTube, as the Switchbacks do exactly what you heard the announcer do. On penalty kicks, they get through to the third round of the U.S. Open Cup, something that has happened before. This has happened before. However, in talking with Alan McCann today, out at Widener Field, talking with Christian Herrera earlier on in the show, there's a different feeling around it this time. Because there's a different mentality with this team regarding this competition. And the way that they viewed it in the past is not uncommon. Your main goal is to win a league title. The U.S. Open Cup is not a league title, and sometimes the Open Cup can get in the way of your ultimate goal. But this Switchbacks team, coming off the year they had, all the changes, the players, the leadership group went to Alan McCann and said, we want to go for this thing. Put out the best 11 you can every single time out in the U.S. Open Cup because we want to win this thing. And now their next test is their biggest test, Sporting Kansas City from MLS. But the Switchbacks are game planning. They are making roster decisions. And just between you and I, maybe some new Switchbacks in the fold before too long. But they are going to do everything they can to win that match. Because they want to win not just the trophy they've won before. They want to win every trophy that is available to them. Now that match has been made official. It will be Tuesday, April 14th. It will be a 6 p.m. kickoff at Widener Field. Tickets on sale now. SwitchbacksFC.com. And then there's the USL Championship season, which does not go by the wayside. In fact, it comes to the forefront right now. We got a little while before Sporting KC visits. Switchbacks hosting Lexington FC this Saturday afternoon at 3. If you would like to go and bring 3 people that you would like to see a soccer game with, you can be the 13th texter to text Switchbacks and your name to 719-247-1313. The 13th texter to do it will win 4 tickets to Saturday afternoon match. That number also handy to give your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. Back with more after this. Air Force men's basketball coach Joe Crispin set to join me at the bottom of the hour. I actually am quite proud of myself because I did not complain that much yesterday. I think I made a comment at the beginning of the show, but I let the April Fool's thing go for most of the day. But something happened in our nation's capital that I have to bring up as Exhibit A and why we have to be done with this foolishness. The Washington Wizards brought a fan out on the court to shoot a half-court shot. Blindfolded, yes, Ray? He's blindfolded. Said they would give him $10,000 if he made it, which he did. And then the on-court host proclaimed it was an April Fool's joke. And people went nuts. To the point that the Wizards had to apologize and say, no, the entire thing was an April Fool's joke. The whole thing. This was, I don't know how you rig a half-court shot, but apparently they did. What, Ray?
What happened is he was blindfolded.
Right.
He missed the shot.
Oh, missed the shot.
But they acted like he made it and was like, oh, you won $10,000 and everything like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's valuable piece of information, because if I'm going to rail against this stupid holiday,
it's still bad.
I need to have all my facts straight. So that's what happened. They had to apologize and say the whole thing was a bit. The whole thing. The guy was in on it. Yes? The guy that missed the shot, he was in on it. Okay. So this is like when Nuggets mascot Rocky, I remember one year where he was going to deliver a cake to a woman and then like tripped and covered her in the cake and just kind of walked away. Well, you found out later, and maybe I was just young and naive, that she was in on it. And now every time I see Rocky do anything, I'm like, fake, including the half-court shots, fake. No, he really can make those. Can we be done? We live, I mean, I don't want to turn this into down a street I don't want to go, but let me just say this. We already have a difficult enough time separating reality from fiction. Do we need a day where tons of people and media organizations and professional sports teams intentionally try to dupe you? Do we have to have a day? Like, we know that Centel is messing with us. We learned that. NBA Centel, we get Centel, that's a thing. That's fine. But we have such a problem, and we even did this yesterday with the Aaron Rodgers thing. Is this a joke? Is this an April Fool's joke? No, Mike Florio says it's real. It's not an April Fool's joke. And yet still, Eric messages into the show and says it was an April Fool's joke, right? But I don't blame Eric, because we can't know. We have to like quadruple verify everything. Just don't do it. Because here's the thing. Most of the April Fool's jokes are lame, right? And I will at least give credit to the Washington Wizards in this regard. If they really fooled a dude into thinking he won $10,000 and pulled the rug out from under him, like, that's commitment. That's serious. So many April Fool's jokes are just like, just don't fill out my timeline. Don't make me. I got to fact check everything. I got to fact check my maps on my. I'm like, are you sure you want me to take this street? Do we really have to have April Fool's Day? I don't think so. I'm not a holiday guy as it is, as you well know. So I am the most curmudgeonly when it comes to special occasions. But I think we can find some common ground here. Or just sports teams don't do that. But you know what? If it happens in a different part of the world that I'm not involved in, then go right ahead. This is selfish. I just don't want to be having to do that as a sports talk show host on a day. Wait a minute. Is this guy really going to this place? Is this really happening? I don't want to put in that effort any more than I already do. No more April Fools. President Trump, can we put this on his docket? You may say it's not worthy of the office of the President of the United States. I don't care. It means a lot to me. And I'm a voter like everybody else. Thank you very much. 719-247-1313. Joe Crispin, the new boss of the Air Force men's basketball team, joins me next. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Exciting times at the Air Force Academy as they have found the new man to lead the Air Force men's basketball team, hopefully for many years to come. He is Joe Crispin, and he joins me now. Coach, great to have you.
Thanks for welcoming me. I'm enjoying every single second of it.
Yeah, and every single second of a whirlwind the last couple of weeks. How would you describe your time on the job so far?
Whirlwind is the word I use very often when people ask me about it, but I say it's like it's the kind of whirlwind I prefer, and I might be drinking from the fire hose at times, but it feels good.
Yeah, and how's the family liking it so far?
Great. Yeah, they had a good week here. They actually just went back, and you see maps and you see photos, but once you get a lay of the land and get to meet the people and go check out some neighborhoods, which of course my wife and kids were excited to do. I mean, it's a great, fun adventure. We've had a lot of great adventures in basketball. This is another one that we are just super excited about and all in on, and it's been great.
When you were originally approached by the hiring firm that Nathan Pine enlisted to find his next head coach, what was like your initial when they said Air Force? What was your initial thought that entered your head about potentially being their head coach?
Well, I mean, always the first thought. I mean, especially because I've been an assistant coach for 3 years and really had more. I've had more experience as a head coach than I have an assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I most people who meet me for 5 minutes usually ask, "How do you do as an assistant coach?" Right? Because I'm really clear about my vision and strong in what I believe. So I was certainly looking for head coaching opportunities and open to them, but not just anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for people to understand that, because a lot of people just go to wherever it'll take them. And I'm a little bit pickier because I feel like I know who I am and I know what I'm about and I know what motivates me and what gets me fired up. And, when I looked at the situation in terms of being down, right, and having a lot of, apparent disadvantages, and then that being explained to me, all that, was involved in that, right, because that was some of my first questions. My initial response is always like, well, let me check it out and tell me more about it. And then my second response was, well, I think I'm all in. And, they kind of, especially a search firm with Kyle Bowlesby was great. And I had somebody helping me and they would say like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, I'm definitely sure. Right. And the more I looked into just the program and the academy and everything it's about and where we're at in the Mountain West and where we're at in college basketball, and then I talked to folks here and, coach and various coaches here. And it just became the most obvious thing in the world that I wanted to do it. It felt like it was a perfect fit for them and me. And it doesn't mean it'll be easy, but it will be good.
Joe Crispin, my guest, Air Force men's basketball coach, obviously spending time at Penn State. You were right in the thick of things when it comes to the transfer portal and NIL. Was there any part of you that saw a school that doesn't do those kind? I guess the portal is only one way, unfortunately, at Air Force, as you well know. But was there any part of you that's like, yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing to kind of get out of what I'm dealing with at Penn State right now?
Yeah, and I'm a little different. I don't have like overarching judgments about anything, right? It's just in terms of like, I'm in the pros, and the pros are a bit of a circus, right? I mean, you have things, I played in Turkey and Italy and, late payments and all sorts of crazy stuff. I got crazy stories that I share all the time. And I don't really, I wasn't in college basketball for 30 years. So it's not like I was attached to it being done a certain way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
I'm not attached to one way. I'm really not. For me, it's more about who are we? Where are we going? How can we get there here? Right. And if for that at Penn State, sure. It's a little bit the transfer portal now and where college basketball are. The thing that I've had so many coaches say to me, they're like envious, right? That we really don't have that option.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do it a different way. Sometimes when you just can't turn right at all or can't go left at all, it just makes your decision simpler, right? And a lot of guys out there do want to recruit high school kids more consistently and develop the relationships we're able to build over time. And that is super attractive to me. But on the same token, there's still a way to have relationships. But right now, it is a circus.
Mm-hmm.
It is a circus because you have agents and people call themselves agents, and you have kids who don't know what to do and their parents don't know what to do, how to operate in this new business that we just kind of dropped them into. And I think a lot of the kids, and even just talking to our guys, like there's a lot of people who are seeing that, you know, their friends at other places might not be as happy with this as you think. And coaches are not happy with it as you think. And I think it'll calm down at some point, right? There'll be a sort of clear system, but for where I'm sitting now, I know it's a great job and a great group of constraints, and that there's a lot of people who would love having some of these so-called problems with quotes around them.
Joe Crispin, my guest, and that's something that you certainly spoke about at your introductory press conference is there are strengths at the Air Force Academy. And I think that's people lose sight of that. And look, I don't necessarily blame them for that when they see what's going on in college athletics, but there are strengths. And for you to constantly bring up the advantages and the strengths that you have that these other places don't, I thought it was great to hear. Is one of those, you talk about recruiting high school kids, being able to go to them and look them in the eye and say, I'm all in on you. Like I'm not, I'm not going to go grab some transfer player from somewhere else to replace you. I want you for all 4 years. Is that kind of a commitment? Is that one of those things that you feel like can really be a strength of your program?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was even one of the things in building our staff that I was focused on, is like, it is a strength for the kids to work with good people over 4 or 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. From a relational standpoint, 5, sometimes 6, if they prep. Those kind of things, continuity, roster continuity is one of the biggest topics. And there's a ton of people, smart people, researching that in roster continuity. That's what people are pursuing right now at the highest levels. The problem is they often can't afford it. Mm. And, all roster continuity is often more powerful than just sheer volume of talent. So that's a huge priority for us, is making sure they have a good experience with us and a great experience and a vision for the academy and all that comes with Air Force, right? For life, is giving them a vision for that. And I think that has to be our strength. It has to be our strength. And right now, I just had my son go through it. He was fortunate enough to commit to a Division I school, but 10, 15 years ago, he might have had 20 offers and he would have committed, before his senior season started, right? In a traditional way. Well, now he had to wait around and knew that there might not be as many opportunities, so that when he saw a good one, he was ready to roll on it. And that's a lot of kids. A lot of people would really, really struggle with that, and they are struggling with that. So if we can show that we can give kids a great opportunity over the long haul to develop, and then also have a vision for all of life, that's a huge advantage, right? And people say there's certain things you can't do, but there's so much that we can emphasize, to your point, and we will.
What was the group, or maybe you met with them on an individual level, what was the message that you wanted to make sure the current players at Air Force received from you as soon as you met them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is because they struggled through a long season and a long couple seasons. When you have that experience, the joy you get and the fulfillment you get and the relationships you build when you're able to turn that around are the most formative of your life. So here you are, having gone through, a difficult season, and now you have an opportunity to shift the story, to shift the narrative, to be a part of something new. And to, as young men, that's when you develop your best relationships. When you're on a mission together, you're willing to sacrifice for it. You're willing to do hard things for it. That's the opportunity you have in front of us. It's an incredible opportunity. And then on top of that, you have just the opportunity any Air Force basketball player has, is to represent a clear community that stands for something bigger than just, for-profit margin, which is a lot of things in college basketball, right? Mm-hmm. for life, right? For the academy, for the military component, all of it, right? Is for your country. We stand for something. That's an incredible opportunity that I think the guys here, I know, just talking to them, they came for that. So that's what we want to give them. And that's what we're confident we will give them.
And the mark of any great coach is the ability to morph what he does to the strength of his team. And that was something that you certainly impressed upon people the other day at your press conference, is that you're going in with how you would like to play, but you're going to amend things along the way based on the personnel you have. But there's obviously, as I'm sure you might imagine, a lot of discourse on this show about what it's going to look like or what you would like it to look like. Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less offense has been brought up on occasion. When people want to get an idea of the ideal way a Joe Crispin team would play, especially offensively, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, that's in an ideal world. If we can get high quality shots in 7 seconds, we'll take them every time.
Yeah.
But it's still the best way I try to put it to people is we're trying to do the same things everyone else is doing, right? From a basketball perspective, obviously you want to get quality shots as efficiently as possible for your best guys, and then go get more shots. You want to get quality shots. You want to get quantity shots. Everyone's playing those games. And, within that framework, you need to, understand there's a give and take to that, right? Mm-hmm. But we're just trying to do that faster. Mm-hmm. That's all we're trying to do. It's not a rocket science thing. So when you are trying to do something faster, you can't just focus on the efficiency of getting a certain shot. You're trying to get it quicker. Mm-hmm. So, you're not going to disguise them with 47 different twirling around, running in circle action. No, we're going to get right to the point, and we're going to get right to the things that give us an advantage. And then we're going to teach our guys to play off that advantage, and we'll teach them how to be efficient with a lesser period of time. If that takes 5 seconds, one possession, it takes 15 seconds the next possession, that's fine. Right. And, one of the simplest ways to look at it is just making fast normal. When you normalize scoring quicker and getting advantages quicker, anybody can get used to that. I mean, I had a group of high schoolers we played with in high school 30 years ago, and we got used to it. And we weren't better basketball players than what you see on the court here or anywhere. So that just, that's a simple philosophy. The other thing, though, is defensively, it really is important. I mean, I talk a lot about defense, but, defense is a place where you can be even more creative to try to create turnovers and limit offensive rebounds and disrupt an opponent. But I think in today's game, that's why I emphasize pressure, but it's not just some frenetic run around like crazy people pressure, although we might use that at times. It's more about creating a rhythm and flow to the game that's to our advantage. That's really all it is. So there's a variety of ways to do that. And, the way we do it is not always the same on purpose because we're not playing the same people every night, but we are trying to accomplish the same things. And in today's game, the way the game's called, right, and block charges and all these rule changes, you don't have to play like crazy people to get to 90 to 100 points. But you do need to play with urgency and a good pace, and that's what we will do.
Yeah. You mentioned that it's not rocket science. You actually might have a couple rocket scientists on your basketball team moving forward. So I'm just saying, if you want to go a little bit more outside the box, you do have the collective brain power with your team to maybe be able to do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's part of the other thing about playing this way is you're trying to teach guys to make better decisions quicker. That's all. And, it's a different way of playing the game. It's a different way of training. And, I've prepped our guys that there's going to be a lot that they'll get used to. But over time, when you got smart guys and they're disciplined guys and they're willing to play together, they can do that. And I think that's true on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Basketball is a game of decisions. And so we're going to try to teach guys to make good ones and quick ones.
Before I let you go, I appreciate your time today, Coach. What was the experience like playing overseas? Can the American brain comprehend what goes on over in Europe and playing like you did for a number of years over there?
Yeah, I always tell people it was the basketball education I never wanted, but I'm so thankful I received. Right, I wanted to just play in the NBA for 12 years and fire up thousands of threes. But Europe was an amazing place to learn the game, because even within the countries and the continent, they teach a variety of things in different ways. They do things, and there'll probably be some things I do in end game situations that I took from Europe that people won't understand. And they do different things that when I didn't fully understand when I was there, that I'm like, wow, they were ahead of the curve. They were ahead of the curve. They were ahead of the curve. And you're seeing more NBA teams than ever copy Europe.
Sure.
You're seeing more college teams than ever copy Europe, because they play with it. And I used to say that. I'm like, why weren't we doing this? Right, when I was playing in Europe. So from an educational standpoint, Europe's been ahead of the curve. That's why a lot of schools, and you'll see Illinois in the Final Four, have a bunch of European guys, right? Starting Central Michigan, European guy. So it's not a coincidence, because the way they teach the game, the way they view the game is really different. The good thing for me, though, is they still need the wild card Americans to get them a bucket in 7 seconds or less. So they used to give me the ball for that and pay me well for it. But it was an amazing experience also, life-wise. I didn't want to go there per se, but I'm so thankful for I did. I had 2 of my kids were born overseas. My wife and I definitely grew tougher and, learned life better, struggling through a lot of those seasons with young kids and getting paid late and any other number of things. And I think the biggest thing for me as a coach is I have a lot of stories. And, you can tell I'm a storyteller, and that's how we'll drive this program. And it helps us connect with players. It's just building up stories of this happened and that happened. And, you can see that you lived a lot in the game of life and in the game of basketball that way.
Well, next time we get you on, I will ask about Laker stories. But for now, I will let you get on with the continuation of the whirlwind. Listen, Coach, we're really thrilled to have you here. The energy you brought the other day, it was something that I got a lot of comments about. People are getting excited about what you might bring to this program. So best of luck, and I hope we get a chat on the regular as we get closer to next season.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. That is Joe Crispin, the new head coach of the Air Force Falcons, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. Yeah, just he played. He had a little bit of time with the Kobe, Shaq, Phil Lakers as a player. So he said the other day at the press conference that that's probably what people ask him the most about. But I mean, and I don't think there are a lot of Joe Crispins out there in terms of there's a lot of coaches that have gone a lot of different places and learned a lot of different kinds of basketball to formulate what they want to do when they ultimately become a head coach. But I think it's a strength to have somebody as well-traveled and has been exposed to a variety of different ideas, both here in the United States and also abroad, to try and get this thing right. Because look, Joe Crispin knows this, you know this, I know this, Nathan Pine knows this. To get them back to where they want to be, it's a long road, and it could use every idea out there. Now, I said the best thing, the turnovers. I mean, that has to happen. You have to generate turnovers if you're going to win in the Mount West, and you're going to win if you're Air Force. So that's something that certainly is not different. The way he wants to play offensively is different. It's different than what you traditionally expect an Air Force team to do. And I've mentioned this a couple of times. It's different than every other Air Force team. I mean, when you really think about it, Troy Calhoun taking the football team as the best example, option, ball control, running the football. Fewer events, controlling the clock. With the Princeton offense that, Air Force basketball has run in the past. That's a little bit more ball control, lower event. What Frank Serratori's teams, very defensive oriented. Puck possession. What Joe Crispin is talking about on the offensive side, it's a little bit different. And we'll see if it works. But as I mentioned during the interview and what Coach Crispin acknowledged, like, got to have the guys to be able to do it. And that's, I'm sure, a big part of what he's doing now with all, the personal side of it and finding a place for him and his family to live and all that kind of stuff, is evaluating what he's got and how he can employ them. But it's not going to be an easy task. He's coming to this program when they're at the bottom, the absolute bottom. So you could be optimistic and say there's nowhere to go but up, and I think that you would be right to feel that way. But up a little bit, probably not going to be good enough. So somebody with a lot of different ideas, maybe some different ones, I think makes Joe Crispin the right choice right now for this Air Force men's basketball team. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how it all comes together. Appreciate him joining me on the show. Shouts to Nick Arseniak, the Air Force men's basketball SID, for getting that lined up. Also, my thanks to Thomas Harding of MLB.com and Christian Herrera of the Switchbacks. Again, tickets are on sale now. That Open Cup match against MLS Club Sporting KC, April 14th, 6 p.m. You can get them at switchbacksfc.com. That's it for me. Back tomorrow right here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Have a good one.